All right, we are connected for the live edition of the news on this Thursday. And of course, it's going to be an interesting one to say the least because we got the pump shock or the Trump gas issue, whatever you want to call it. But I want to share my 2 cents as well as some infographics and the current White House scramble to control the messaging and the narrative as the American people experience an increased costs at the pump. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. And as always, for those who are plugged in, I appreciate you for blessing me with your time and your presence. And as always, looking forward to finding out what's going on in your neck of the woods. So feel free to drop some thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the comment section or in the chat so that we can all stay plugged in as to what is really taking place outside of all the events, of course, that they're trying to bombard us with. But once I find out I'm flowing on my end here, I'm going to get into lots of interesting headlines here, and we're going to make the most of this time together. And so it's going to be a doozy, man. Yeah, just gold and silver, somewhat, it's they found a way to keep the price well beneath what the real market value of the metals should be. But then again, once it's just another opportunity to take advantage of the manipulation, as I always say. So definitely make sure you do that. And then also we have just the continual escalation of events globally, and we haven't even seen the worst part of the Middle Eastern conflict, in my opinion. So it's going to continue to increase and escalate just because the powers that be that's working behind the scenes, they're not done yet. Because they're not done, that means that we can never take a day off. We can never relax and pursue anything to do with peace. And yeah, that's what it is, man. But before I move forward, let me make sure I am streaming here. And as of now, it looks like I am not on the same page, but I will do the best I can with what I have and make the most of it. So give me 1 second here, make some corrections on my end here, and then we're going to jump right into it because these are very interesting times to say the least. And yeah, we're caught in the middle of it. And once I get my situation here, I will be good to go, and then I'll jump right into it. Okay, so let me just jump right into it. I want to start off by just sharing a visual aid that came to mind uh, when I decided to put this together. As I bring it on the screen here, as you can see here, I remember, was it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, whatever it was, during the gas situation we experienced as a result of the trillions of dollars created and the impact in every aspect of our lives with the cost of everything going up. I remember seeing those Biden stickers throughout the city of Detroit that people put on the actual pumps, and it said, "I did that." So I had to, of course, mimic that and show Donald Trump here with the "I did that" pointing towards the current gas price. And then we're going to jump right into that because I wanted to start off with that. I have lots of bookmarked things to bring to your attention. So as you can see on the screen here, this is that in a bigger presentation there. But let's just jump right into the headline. So this is what caught my attention. It says Sue Wiles sounds alarm on gas prices, and this is from Politico, and it came out today. And so it says White House aides and cabinet officials are coming under intense pressure to reverse the spike in energy prices caused by the start of the war in the Middle East. So once again, for the same president who ran on no more wars and foreign entanglements and all that stuff like that, we're not experiencing that. It's the complete opposite. So clearly something's changed. And of course, anybody that's paying attention know ultimately where this will end up, where this has to go. Just because I realize that I can get mad and be upset at what I'm witnessing as far as the complete shift of narrative, as well as the complete um, reversal of all policies by this current administration. Or me personally, I can accept it at what it is, realizing that no president has a real authority to call the shots because there are lobbyists and much greater influences surrounding that person than we all are aware of and able to actually admit. And so, literally, everybody answers to someone. And clearly, by now, everybody can see this whole MAGA facade was just a political ploy to get people to buy in. While at this current moment, everything that he ran upon is completely out the door. You got no arrests, Epstein's files being taken offline. You got war, and you got more, as I call them, the Trump crusades, because we got Maduro in handcuffs in New York in prison. You got the whole idea of capturing Greenland. You have now Iran. You have next Cuba is on the list. So once again, can you really be mad at them or what? You guys let me know. But I want to give you an idea as to what's going on because the pump is where people are starting to feel the pinch. And of course, this is not good headed in the midterms. And of course, they know that. So what it tells me is that they don't care no more. And there are some things that might take place between now and the time midterms come around to distract us further or to perhaps push off the whole primaries completely. So we'll see. But give an idea here. It says the President Donald Trump's chief of staff is telling his advisors to bring ideas to the Oval Office to lower gasoline prices in the wake of the U.S. attack on Iran. It says, according to two energy industry executives familiar with the conversation, says the White House is looking under every rock for ideas on improving energy prices, especially gasoline prices, said one executive who was granted anonymity to describe internal administration discussion. It says the attack and Iran's subsequent targeting of the Persian Gulf sector, energy sector, has sent oil up more than $10 a barrel, lifting gasoline prices to their highest levels since Trump took office last year. So once again, this is a situation where this administration, even though he's kind of gone quiet and as far as explaining the events that's taken place over the last week or two, but then again, we're 3 months into a new year, and we've already seen a lot of concerning developments out of this administration to where it should be no surprise by now. And the fact that he's not owning this, and there's apparently no end date, given that we don't know what the clear objective is, other than what Bibi Netanyahu, who expressed on national television within the United States of America the other day, that we have the greatest leadership because Trump is the man for the job to stand up and fight this and that, all that BS. Okay, so it is what it is. But to better explain this, I thought I would just put this in a visual aid. And so on the screen here, this is just another way of looking at some of the key details in what's considered the oil shock. So as you can see on the screen here, this is a demonstration or a diagram of that very same article that makes it easier because it's in picture format. So as you can see at the very top, it says oil shock inside the White House scramble to lower gas. Let's start over here to the far side of the screen. So we got the Iranian escalation triggers crisis. We got U.S. strikes on Iran, the Persian Gulf, and the primary issue that the U.S. is trying to keep an eye on is the Strait of Hormuz being disrupted. And so Iran has made it clear that anything that goes through there is in direct line of fire that they have first dibs to because it's literally their corridor. But then again, with China, it looks like they're working on some things on the back end to keep that open. And as a result of all this stuff, we've seen oil shoot up over $10+ per barrel. And so here we are now. The market reacts with literally and crude oil surging over 80, gas at the pumps up $3.20, and then in Europe they're feeling it the worst because their gas prices is up over 70%. So yeah, are we there yet? No, but could it come if we don't get this under wraps? Probably so. So here you got just pictures of chief of staff and energy secretary. And so literally you got everybody, the Treasury Department and the Energy Council coming together. And their goal is, as it says here, folks are scrambling for announcements and messaging. They're trying to control the narrative because they can't let this get out of hand. And the fact that this administration has no one to blame at this point. So literally, policy options on the table. And this is some things that's positioned in the article. And so you got a gas tax holiday, which is needed to be approved by Congress. And it's designed to cut the price as a one option. So basically remove the taxes off gas at the pumps entirely. And then you have guard oil facilities, and that's on the military side, literally, because if Iran is targeting actual refineries and things of that nature throughout the Middle East and potentially beyond, then of course that becomes a very high risk for the continual spike of gas prices. And then you got here, the global risk supply is the primary issue because every nation on the planet is impacted by this decision that the U.S. made along with Israel to stop terrorists or whatever they call it. Now, I forgot what the narrative is, but you got Iraq shut down, you got Saudi threatens, and you got the 20% of the world's oil is at risk as a result of what is going on. And literally, we're only in the first phase of this entire energy situation. And as you can see here, it says the energy test of the Iran conflict, rising energy prices could drag on the economy and fuel political turmoil well beyond what we've witnessed thus far. And so, literally, what we're experiencing now, a couple cents here and there, it adds up, especially if there's no end date or no end goal in mind to what success would look like in the capturing of the Iranian nation state for the oil. Because at the end of the day, it's all about energy, because energy makes the world go round, literally. And so, these are things that we're paying attention to. And let me give you some more here. So, I thought I would just show you directly the current energy prices. So this is from AAA fuel prices. And as of right now, the average price is $3, as it says here, $3.25 and climbing. And so, of course, the red states, they have the highest overall. And so just give an idea of what's happening. Current today, 325 is the average for regular right on through. And so yesterday's prices, everything is up 5 to 6 cents. And I might sound small, but compared to, a week ago, that's 20 cents ish for regular. And then going back a month ago, that's almost, say 30 cents. And on the year itself, total from 1 year, from last year at this time to this current year, we're up approximately, looks like, say 15, 16 cents just for regular. And so for a nation that's hard pressed on controlling the narrative of, the economy's doing great, everything is fine, and last year especially, it was all Biden. Everything that was inherited was Biden's fault. So new year, new set of events, who's to blame? It's good to say the blame can go towards Iran. Let's blame the Ayatollah. Let's blame the radical left extremists in Iran. I mean, whatever. Okay, you guys get my drift. So this is just some things that, once again, there will be no ownership out of this administration on the events we're experiencing, just because, once again, the United States of America has been proven to be a vassal nation, and the true leaders of all of this happens to be our allies in the Middle East, or one particular ally, which was quite clear and obvious when Bibi took to the airways and he did more talking or explaining of what's going on to toot Trump's horn than Trump coming on air and actually describing what we're doing, what he's doing on our behalf. So once again, if this is MAGA, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that is. But just give you a little bit more information out of what's happening in the headlines here. So here we got from CNN 3 hours ago. And so I'm going to go through a couple things here that obviously concern people. And so here we have, after several years of higher operating costs and softer consumer demand, gas prices are climbing as the war with Iran escalates. That's adding pressure on small businesses, which power the U.S. economy and account for most of the country's jobs. And so once again, I was, prior to gathering this information here, I was thinking about including the issues with the gas, or not gas, but the layoffs, because it seems like every day I'm noticing or seeing something come across my news feed about a company of some kind laying off hundreds, if not thousands. And it's becoming a weekly, monthly trend where, it's hard to continue a lot of the people because people can feel it. And so you got people concerned with their jobs, therefore impacts their income, then will also affect their spending. And then when you got to go put gas in your car and you're noticing the price going up, that's going to further put little second thoughts in your mind. So just something this administration got to get a hold of. And of course, that's our messaging. So here is another post here. It says natural gas prices are shooting up thanks to the U.S., Israel, war, and Iran. And then he happened to post, Trump did this. So as you can see, the actual dollar prices from a 3-month average retail price. And yeah, it's something isn't very noticeable there. It's a lot higher. And then the next one here. So here's just more people's opinions that I thought was worth bringing to your attention. It says gas prices are 12 cents higher per gallon today than the day Biden left office. Trump did that. And it says, I can't believe Joe Biden raised gas prices again because Trump started a war with Iran. So once again, like, these are pretty heavy influencers that are sharing their displeasure in what they're experiencing. And I shouldn't be surprised. It says gas prices are soaring. American soldiers are dying. The Epstein files are being covered up. Inflation is jumping. The president is making billions of dollars for himself. The government is killing Americans. Are we winning yet? Yeah. And then here's another one here. It says U.S. oil prices surged to the highest level since January 2025, now trading above $70 a barrel. Oil prices are now up 43% since December, with U.S. gas prices rising rapidly. So these are things that, once again, you can't hide. You can't create a fake narrative that everything is fine, that the economy is booming, that all the narratives that we've experienced for the last year under the second term of this administration without people literally raising severe questions and red flags as to what's going on. Then you see more and more gatekeeping for narratives and propaganda. And I was actually thinking about like how and what better way to describe this. It's literally we're caught in the midst of the art of deception. And what I mean by art of deception is simply when the gatekeepers to media and all information are all in lock and step with trying to control a particular narrative from reverberating beyond what they can control. They start to cut off and to limit access points of information. So I've noticed a lot of major influencers who decided to go against their own pockets, coming out with truth, calling this the Israel war. And so once those larger channels start talking about Israel in a negative sense, they're automatically labeled as anti-Semitic. And then their sponsors pull out left and right. Everybody who supported them now turns against them. And why is that? It's because the daisy chain of events. And it just goes to show how influential a particular nation state, the control they have over every aspect of our lives, from entertainment to sport, to entertainment, to finance, to politics, to religion, you name it. And so if you get out of line, you'll be made an example of. And so the fact that people are willing to take hits to their pockets shows that they have a moral compass of wanting to disseminate truth. And that is priceless. So I commend those that are willing to speak against their own pockets, because that's how movements start one by one. People being willing to stand up and call out falsehoods, deceptions, lies, because this war is not an American necessity. It is literally a new world order / global reset / biblically prophetic event from the surface. And the reason I say biblically prophetic is because you have some people. Let me share this with you. So this is off the cuff, but I haven't listened to it. But just the narrative of what is being discussed is so crucial. And so here on the screen, let me bring this on the screen here. You have Tucker Carlson, and even he himself is going into the religious side. And at the surface level and at the very peak of all this, it's all encompassed by spiritual affairs. We're just happen to be caught in the middle, living the natural occurrences of it. But Tucker Carlson just yesterday said, could this be a religious war designed to rebuild the third temple on the ashes of Alask? Hope not. And so literally he was quoting a rabbi snippets with, and they were literally talking about the idea that wouldn't it be a coincidence or not if there was a false flag, and that false flag would end up being a missile hitting the dome, the mosque, at the center of where the third temple is designated to be built at some point. And so to think that this is not all lining up, spiritually speaking, whether intentionally been done by the controllers of this experience or by the powers that be, ultimately, because the ruler of this world, we all know who that is definitely on a time crunch, in my opinion. And so all these things are being sped up to where it's hard to deny the spiritual side of all this, because we see people actively trying to carry out biblical prophecy. And so the idea of a third temple lets us know that that is the beginning of the events that take place, leading to a figure known as the Antichrist that will enter into the Holy of Holies within that temple and declare himself to be something that we all know he's not. But then again, that's all stuff that they're trying to actually accomplish. And it's hard to dismiss this as just being, oh, this is just some fluke conspiracy theory stuff because, yeah, okay, you get my drift. You get my drift. Okay, so those are just some things there worth touching on. The gas shock is going to be interesting. Keep an eye on it, but it's not all doom and gloom for everybody because China pressures Iran to keep the Strait of Hormuz open to oil and gas flow. So this came out yesterday, but ultimately, China and Iran, big partners, they clearly will work in their mutual interests for each other against the big bad wolf, which happens to be big Satan and little Satan, as is known, as is referred to in the Islamic world, which is Israel and America. And so it's good to say that they're going to keep things flowing. And so the Strait of Hormuz can be the choke point of global energy out of the Middle East. And it might be closed off to America, but it won't be closed off to China and perhaps Russia if they decide to continue to do deals as well. But at the end of the day, the nation state that stands to probably benefit from all this is Russia because they got unlimited energy resources, and the world definitely and their allies will eventually come knocking, and they can charge what they want despite what the market price is. Because if you really need it, you're going to pay what you got to pay for it. But these are some things that's happening. But it says here China is pressuring Iranian officials to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, allow the passage of oil and liquid nitrogen gas cargoes, and not attack tankers carrying energy supplies. Anonymous senior executive of Chinese state energy firms on Tuesday said China depends on the Middle East oil and liquid nitrogen gas for a large part of its huge energy imports, but Iran is heavily dependent on Chinese refiners to buy its sanctioned oil, too, over 80% going to China. All these supplies have to transit through the Strait of Hormuz on their way to China from the ports in the Gulf. And so, with that being the case, because they're so heavily dependent upon each other, it's good to say they're going to figure something out. And then, as a result of this, all this pressure being applied by the West, in particular the big bad wolves, which is the U.S. You know, military complex state, they're the ones that will eventually get involved because the whole point is to disrupt global energy so that the Venezuelan oil as well as Iranian oil come under American influence, i.e., prolonging the petrodollar system. And so it's good to say that if China and Iran continue to work out deals, they allow certain vessels to pass through, heading in the opposite direction of where the U.S. want them to go. There'll be a false flag. There'll be some type of event. U.S. will escalate things as we always do because at the end of the day, it's all about protecting our national security, which is our currency, which is centered around oil. So these are things that's happening that people should really be paying attention to because no matter what, the average Joe and Jane caught in the middle, we're just going along for this ride because we don't control any of the things happening on the front or back end because our government's been captured. It's the most corrupt cartel that is known to man because governance is mankind's greatest problem. And until all these events unfold and work themselves out, we're just going to be subject to whatever this administration and those influencing them happens to do for the American people. And how this makes America great again, I don't know, but somebody tell me. But on to some other things. Let's talk about gold and silver just a little bit. So as of right now, where I've refreshed my screen, you can see gold prices is down, silver is down. But think about this: where were we a year ago? We were nowhere near 5,000, and no one was even thinking about $82 silver a year from today. So we are still in a place where gold and silver has revealed and exposed the criminality behind the monetary system, and gold and silver is where it's at today because of Eastern forces that decided to stop playing the U.S. games with the paper futures game. So this pause or this alleged volatility that we're experiencing is literally a delay tactic, which of course the Iran war and everything else in between is designed to overshadow all this. So people ignore this and actually go out and just panic and not buy and not do what you got to do. So once again, at the end of the day, if you know that this is all a part of the art of deception, then you should definitely take advantage of opportunities. And anytime you see red in things that you believe in, red referring to a price decrease, that's an opportunity for you to take advantage of the manipulation. And so whether it's metals, digital stuff, or land, or whatever it is, if it's on sale, get it. Because if it comes from the earth, especially, the world needs it in some capacity. just like the video I did with the 13 minerals that our Pentagon is trying to shore up in order to really keep this war situation going, because the US is not built to sustain anything long term, because the only thing we really are good at is debt. And beyond that, what else do we have? We got AI and the large language models at this current moment. You got all the collaborative efforts between the Department of Defense and OpenAI and all that stuff. So that can be a major advancement for sure. But beyond that, it's all centered around people accepting our dollars. And so expect more military conflicts, more intervention, more debt, more death, more distractions. You know how the powers that be love to do it. So, once again, just taking a minute, sharing my 2 cents on what I think is important, because our lives depend upon the stuff that is taking place right now. Because energy, food, water, shelter, all things that have a price tag on it, denominated in USD, as the world turned away from it. And here in America, especially, we are still forced to use our currency because it's all we have as far as day-to-day transactions. But that's why you have to have insurance on that currency, and that's where gold and silver comes into play. But anyway, just taking a minute, sharing my 2 cents. Curious to hear what you think. If you were blessed by hanging out with me a little bit and getting a chance to know what was going on, then make sure you subscribe so you stay plugged in. Hit that bell and drop a comment. I definitely would love to get your thoughts. And other than that, people, be blessed, and I will see you later. Peace.